even though I am able to go into channel mode, and I do, it is sometimes difficult because when you are channeling in the mode of channeling, whether you're channeling energy or channeling spirit or channeling messages, whatever you're channeling, but there is a surge of energy that comes through you, and whatever you say, whatever you do, whatever actions you take must align or be integrated properly with the intent of of the work itself. So in other words, if you feel inspired to give this person a donation, that's it. That doesn't mean you go and take responsibility for all of their life's problems or issues, because at that point you're stepping outside of the zone of alignment, and you're going to basically start to connect with these other energies and other things that have nothing to do with what you've been called to do. So, because I in the past had a huge problem with this, I always would try to help people with my ability, and then I would take accountability for some of the stuff that they were dealing with, and I would make myself overly responsible. And then I would
Yeah.
end up with people's drama that had nothing to do with me. So
Yeah.
it was a process for me, and I'm still learning it sometimes, because sometimes I still find myself making the same mistake, but I'm a lot better with it now than I used to be. But still, it's like it's one of those things where you just have you're constantly learning.
Yeah. So I looked at it from the perspective of every person who is to deliver, just like you were saying, the message is a channel. So even if they're not in like channeling
Yeah,
Asha mode,
yeah,
they're still a conduit for the energy, and we're still to do the work of the Lord.
right, exactly,
We're still here to do that work, you
right,
know,
and
like, and
mm-hmm.
actually, remember we talked about me finding that passage in the Bible or whatever. So I was looking. I was like, let me see if there's anything else in here. So I landed on like Psalm 143, but essentially, just like the prayer here says, you know, if you tell me what to do, it says kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, show me how to, just like you were talking about last time, just like we've talked about, show me how to work for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't step outside of bounds, because it's easy to do that. It's easy to be like, oh, I feel like I'm supposed to say this, and then you just explode into information that maybe is not specifically for that person at that time. You know?
Well, people don't realize, like, we are not in control here. But we pretend we are, and we like to give ourselves the experience or the feeling that we are, but none of us is in control here. We are all doing what we're doing because we are an expression of source in physical form. So the very nature of our existence is the expression of creation and of source. But once we get here, we get so caught up in our own individual like mindsets and perspectives and stuff that we start to become invested in things. We become invested in situations and in people's lives, etc. So sometimes when you're called to do something, it isn't something that you can control. It's something that is just so overwhelming that if you either have to make a decision to follow it and trust it in the moment, even if you seem like a crazy person, or decide you're not going to rise to that. That's different from like someone having an impulse to go out and kill somebody or go out and hurt somebody, because that is more out of an ego sense of being, because any desire to want to hurt another human being in any way, shape, or form comes from a place of lack that does not express creation in its purest form. It is a place of lack, or the desire for control or manipulation, or to change what is. But like, if let's say you are talking to friends or whatever, and then you just like feel the need to say something to your friend, but you're like, I ain't gonna say that to her because I'm gonna get my, I don't know, she's gonna tell me something. You're like, I gotta say this to her. I gotta say it to her. It's like you're fighting yourself to control yourself from doing what is just being, that may actually be you being summoned to express on behalf of creation, not only for yourself but for her own self. Because if she's praying and asking for guidance and support, and you feel pushed into saying something, even if she didn't want to hear it consciously, she did ask for the support. And sometimes God's way of telling you and supporting you isn't to say, hey, hang back, let me take care of this for you. Sometimes God's support for you is like, hey, you might want to start dealing with this issue because this is your hang up and this is going to keep you from doing what you need to do. And I think that we are always expecting a bailout. Like everybody treats God like God's a bailout. God is not a bailout. God is
Yeah.
the breathing, living force within all of us. We are still here. We're still physical. We're still responsible for what we're doing.